Good morning, YouTube. Sunday morning, 11th of October. Let's have first dog on the moon.
Hello, Patriots, and welcome to First Dog on the Moon's Guide to Modern Living. I'm the Walkley Award-winning editorial cartoonist for The Guardian Australia, First Dog on the Moon. This week, we take a long, hard look at the Trans-Pacific Partnership. What? You heard me, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Oh, come on, it's not that bad. All right, yes it is. And that's part of the problem. It's taken 5 long years of negotiations, but finally, the trade ministers of 12 different countries, including Australia, have signed this huge and comprehensive trade agreement. What does it mean for us? Well, that's a good question. And the answer is we have no idea. The whole thing is a secret, a gigantic secret. You see, it's hard to get people upset about boring old trade agreements in the first place, and even harder when you don't know what's in them. That's quite a good trick, those bastards. Today, this is the conversation taking place in kitchens, pubs, and country women's associations right across the nation. Lovely weather we've been having, Margaret.
Oh, hasn't it, Edith?
Would you like some more tea, dear?
Oh, yes, please.
How about that Trans-Pacific Partnership, then?
Well, yes, the trouble is we don't know what's in it. Might be good, might not.
That's exactly what I was saying earlier. Not much more to be said about it, then, is there?
Well, no.
Would you like another piece of Father McWilliams?
Oh, all right, just one more.
The left leg?
I'm not sure I could fit it all in. How about from below the knee?
This is our problem, not cannibalism. It's that we might be opposed to what's in the TPP, but our government was kind enough not to tell us. However, we can make a few educated guesses. For example, we're pretty certain that the Trans-Pacific Partnership is not a dating service for bi-curious Polynesians. Malcolm Turnbull assures us it's not going to result in a box of paracetamol costing $10,000. Not in Australia anyway. It might cost that much in developing countries, but bugger those guys. It may introduce compulsory gay animal marriage. Perhaps Cory Bernardi was right all along. Governments may now be allowed to kill and eat the poor. Penalty rates may all be gone. And perhaps we'll even all live under a one-world Sharia caliphate. Our government could even be giving away the right to enact legislation that corporations object to. That last one wasn't a joke. I repeat, that last one wasn't a joke. Some folk are nervous because previously trade agreements like this one have resulted in some pretty dubious outcomes. For example, the Peruvian government is being sued by a Canadian mining company for $315 million in loss of future profits because locals won a campaign against a gold mine that would have closed a kitten hospital. Tobacco companies are no longer able to sue countries implementing plain cigarette packaging, but they will be allowed to directly inject children with nicotine.
Right, now this won't hurt a bit.
Retroactive copyright arrangements mean Disney now own all pictures of mice in perpetuity, and they're allowed to sue anyone who's ever even drawn a mouse. Oh, look, Dad, I drew this picture of a hog-nosed rat.
Well, that's great, son. Look at that long pubic hair. Hello?
Put them in the van.
But it's not a mouse, it's a rat. Look at its pubic hair.
A group of cows from Quebec blockaded a river to stop a Peruvian mining company from fracking their valley. The mining company sued the government and the cows were all killed and eaten, even the baby ones. We know from leaked emails that parts of the TPP were actually written by the multinational corporations who will benefit from the TPP. They specifically included a section that allows CEOs to run people over. But perhaps it's time to finally put our faith in the politicians and multinational conglomerates that must surely have our best interests at heart. Or not. It's up to you to decide. Oh, wait, no it isn't. You suckers. Thanks for listening, Patriots. This has been First Dog on the Moon's Guide to Modern Living, brought to you by the First Dog on the Moon Institute.
Thanks, dog. That's it for our Sunday Extra this week.
There you go. Sleepers awake. But they won't. They won't. I think one of the strangest features of this 15-year-old kid shooting the 58-year-old police accountant was when the head of the New South Wales Police Association stepped out there in a blaze of publicity and tried to pretend that he was living in a Harry Potter movie where nobody's allowed to speak the name of the evil one, otherwise it might make the evil one more powerful. So the Police Association said, you're not allowed to mention the name Farhad Bar Yugal Muhammad or whatever it was. You've got to call it Voldemort did it. And Voldemort shot the Chinaman working for the police. And that's another thing. 20 or 30 years ago, if somebody called Curtis Cheng had been shot and killed in Parramatta, it would have been an anti-Asian crime. Now it's an anti-establishment crime by a Muslim extremist, apparently. It strikes me that there's a lot of guns in Sydney that teenagers can get a hold of if they want to. It's they generally shoot their girlfriend's father's car's tyres or the house that they think somebody who insulted them lives in. There's plenty of people shooting each other or shooting at each other in Sydney. The only thing that differentiates this one is that somebody used a handgun to shoot at somebody else and actually bloody hit him and hit him in the head, and the person they hit was coming out of the police headquarters. But yeah, as the commentators said on the outside, as Malcolm Turning Bull has said a few very pertinent things, but one of the things that's really bloody mysterious to me is how Turnbull can say, if you really object to Australian values and institutions and laws and our culture, it's not compulsory for you to live in Australia. Go and live somewhere else where everybody already lives the way you want us to change to. Then why do all of the angry, disaffected, alienated, disenfranchised, dissident, potentially explosive, violent Muslim youths, why have they all had their passports confiscated? On the one hand, you've got the Department of Immigration and ASIO saying, oh, these people want to go overseas so they can get involved in jihad and fight with ISIL and do all kinds of other wicked, evil, death culty things. But on the other hand, the Prime Minister says, if you don't like it, piss off. That's a dichotomy there, that indicates a schizoid tendency in the Liberal Party. Half of the Liberal Party has woken up to the fact that Tony Abbott was making everything worse. And I've got to say, this kid shooting a police accountant is the final fruit of everything Tony Abbott's policy was working towards with alienating young Muslims in Australia. It might upset some people in the close bracket, security industry to think that, to get their head around it, but that's what was going on. That's what the police associations called to pretend that Voldemort shot the police accountant epitomises. The idea that, it's possible that one disaffected, they're using the word radicalised a lot. Somehow it's radicalising the youth when they get on the internet and they read about a war in their parents' homeland or place where they were born and had to run away from, and they decide to pick a side over there and get emotionally involved in it. But when Ray Hadley, the radio commentator who talks about football for a living, when he gets up there and urges, one football side to pound the other side, to kill the other side, to hit the other side, to beat them up, use all kinds of violent analogies and metaphors and concepts to make his living, to radicalise the Australian youth, that's okay, that's fine, because that's our side being radicalised. I was trying to explain this to a cousin of mine and a husband who were visiting. They live in Winston Hills and have a manufacturing jewellery business in Parramatta. And as soon as the topic came up, one of them said, oh, bloody Muslims. And I explained, During the Second World War, Australian 3-year-olds were laughing and joking about, Jap fall out of plane landing on his bum. Like we've been radicalising our youth for decades, centuries, and it's perfectly okay and acceptable. Why would you accept that somebody from another culture who comes here as a refugee, who didn't want to bloody come here, that's why they were a refugee, they had to run away. Why would you expect them to come here and suddenly abandon their entire culture, all of the traditional heritage and emotional, intellectual baggage of being from whatever part of the world they've left, abandon all that and embrace the way we do things here? I mean, let's face it, in the main street of Glen Innes, they call it Celtic Country, and they fly all of these Celtic flags, and they make a tourist industry devoted to sucking people up here to wallow in how Celtic we are in the New England tablelands of northern New South Wales, because the people who came here didn't bloody want to come here. They were convicts, or they were refugees from the Scottish Highland clearances or the Irish clearances, when all of the land that people traditionally used to live on in Ireland and Scotland was put under sheep, which was owned by somebody who lived in England. When they came here, they didn't suddenly learn how to live like Aborigines. They've spent 200 bloody years emphasising the fact that their children have to grow up wearing kilts and tam o' shanter and playing friggin' bagpipes, because they're determinedly clinging to their Celtic identity, even though they're 12,000 miles away from where Celts actually, well, their way of life didn't make sense anyway. That's why they were replaced by sheep. That's why the Celts were replaced by sheep and had to come here to piss the Aborigines off and run sheep where the kangaroos are supposed to be. So why would you expect that people coming from Iraq or Syria or Lebanon or Pakistan or Afghanistan or any of the other places where NATO and the West has been throwing its weight around and making messes on the ground, why would you expect that when they come here, they're not going to be interested in the causes of their traditional ancestral homeland and get all worked up about it? And you know what? If Australia hadn't got involved with kicking Sadman, who's insane, out of Kuwait, then we wouldn't have dissident Iraqis in Australia who got the shits with the Australian government. If we hadn't have got involved in Absurdistan still, and Iraq again and again and again, and Syria, we wouldn't have people from that part of the world who are deeply upset with what our government stands for because of what our government is doing on the other side of the world. We're spending $15 million a day dropping bombs on camels and second-hand Humvees that the Americans gave to the Iraqis when they trained them up before they run away to fight with ISIL. And the big news this week is that out of the thousands, dwindling to hundreds, dwindling to tens, do you know how many Syrian volunteers the Americans had actually finished training up? 5. So they disbanded the whole bloody idea. They're just going to give arms and ammunition and succour and support to all the various rebel groups, as long as they're against, what's his name, Sadat, the idiot who's in charge or thinks he's in charge of 25% of what's left of Syria, the bloke who's upsetting everybody by dropping barrel bombs out of helicopters because it's the only explosives he can cobble together. And somehow, apparently, if you've got an entire manufacturing plant devoted to building laser-guided gravity bombs, that's okay to kill people with them. If you've got Hellfire missiles, it's okay to kill people with high technology. If all you can do is cobble together ammonium nitrate fertilizer and diesel in a 44-gallon drum with a stick of gelignite and a shotgun shell and throw it out of a helicopter, oh, that's primitive and barbaric, because you didn't use enough manufacturing capacity. Not enough shareholders made money out of your bombs, bought at taxpayers' expense. And meanwhile, America put 4 Hellfire missiles through the window of the intensive care ward of the Médecins Sans Frontières hospital in Kunduz. Probably because somebody in the Taliban got hold of an American Special Forces radio with all the codes and decided that would make the Taliban look good if America could bomb the ICU. And Médecins Sans Frontières lost 12 doctors and 10 patients, cooked alive. 1 missile every 15 minutes for an hour. Thank you, America. Warbles on a lot to YouTube. Ciao.